Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris Furlong. I am your host, and I'm super excited to be back here having the conversation with you. Now, today, I'm super excited also to have Matt, the Aussie flipper, back here on the pod. And this is his second time, basically a year later. And, you know, if you are new here, he's a reseller, he's a YouTuber, and he's doing some pretty cool stuff. And he's basically practically built a business from $0 all the way up to $100,000 in his first year. And if that doesn't inspire you, if that doesn't motivate you, well, that's okay, because it's not always about money. But Matt brings some really great perspective about taking it slow and growing and how it has worked for him. He's doing amazing things on YouTube. His YouTube has gained huge momentum over the last year, and we're going to chat all about that. But really the main topic today is just diving down a little deeper into what are the different elements that he's furthering in his life and why. And I think it's important to have these conversations. We also touch on a few other different things, and me and Matt, we chat all the time, so it's just really just like another conversation. So make sure you buckle up, get excited, and let's get into it. Matt, welcome to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast. Again, this is the second time. It's almost been a year. Probably has been a year. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for getting me back on. I was just saying off air, congrats on the 1 year of the pod. That's super exciting. I don't know. How long ago was it that I was last on?
It would be, because I think you were like third or fourth guest, to be honest. Which probably puts you close to around March, April in 2021. So it has been a year. And I know we chat all the time, and you know, we've had a few other calls which were non-podcast related, but I know it's just gone so quick, right? I mean, you know, you've been doing this. I mean, you're doing reselling for about, jeepers, it must be 18 months now.
Yeah, spot on. 8 months, a little bit over 18 months now, July of 2020. So yeah, I mean, that time has absolutely flown, but things are doing really well, man. I'm still pretty much from I guess a business set the same as I was when we last spoke a year ago, just a little bit probably more further down the road, but yeah, things are all ticking along pretty well.
Love it. And I encourage everyone that's listening, if you haven't heard about who Matt is and the Aussie Flipper, the journey that he's been doing for the last 18 months, you can go check out the first episode. Otherwise, he's got his YouTube channel, which we're going to chat about shortly. But go check out first episode with him, because that's basically where you were probably only about 6 months in at that time when we first caught up, I reckon. And it might have been a bit more. And you were, at the time of when we were chatting, you were basically setting the goal to hit $100,000. And I think that was for the year, or you were on track to hit it by mid-year or something. And I know, spoiler alert, that you hit that $100,000. And I kind of want to just catch up, you know, let's go over what's happened over the last year in terms of growth with the business, growth with yourself. I know your YouTube's blown up. And then we're going to dive into a bit more about, you know, just the different things that you're doing to help further your own life. So 1 year later, you've done over $100,000 in revenue reselling. And how's that been, man? Because I mean, to put it, you know, it's weird to go from zero and to build up to now. So yeah, I built $100,000 business, right? Like, it must be cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I know you're on the same journey yourself as well. So you know exactly kind of how it feels into progress yourself week by week, day by day, hour by hour, because that's really what it is. But yeah, from, I guess, when we were last on the pod, that was 6 months in. And I think at that point I was working on my first financial year, not even financial year, just calendar year of doing July. Actually, no, I lie. It was a calendar year, financial year. I wanted to get $100,000 in revenue straight off the bat, and I was able to tick that off and get there. We got the 100,000. I've basically just immediately started to set another goal. So now I'm after $140,000 in revenue.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, you just go for the next bar. You're satisfied for a few days, and then you just want more, don't you? So that was certainly the case with me. I was really happy and excited to kind of get there, and then I thought, right, well, this is possible. You can continue with it. You've got it to a point where it is a full-time job, and you don't need to work a side job or a second job to keep yourself going. This can be a full-time gig, and then it was setting the next bar, albeit it is still just me. There's no extra staff that have come on board or anything like that. That's some future plans now that we've sort of hit this first level. So I don't think I really do feel like I'm capping out right now from a workload perspective. Like I'm brimming. Like the more sales you get, the more revenue you get, the more work you have to do, right? So that's kind of got me to the point now where I realize that I'm pretty much, if I can hit the $140,000 in revenue, albeit just me doing it.
Yeah.
I reckon from there I can start to look at staffing and getting a few people to come in and I guess give me some assistance. So the other side of that is obviously the YouTube channel has been as much of a focus as the eBay revenue goals that I've got in place as well. And that hasn't fallen away for the last 12 months either. Since day one, 18 months ago, I've still been publishing 3 videos a week. And I think I had 10 days off over Christmas, but
good man.
Oh, it was so hard. It was so hard. You feel like the algorithm's just going to just fall off the perch and not give you any momentum. But I had to take it because I was feeling a little bit burnt out after a full sort of 18 months or 12 months of doing it. So yeah, man, YouTube going really well, and reselling is going pretty good too.
It's really great. And, you know, I've been following you since I think you were 600, 500 subscribers on YouTube. And that would have been, jeepers, that would have been back in October of 2020, I think.
Yeah, that sounds spot on.
Yeah. Yep. And, you know, and I think when I had you on the pod, you must have been close to about 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. And now literally like yesterday or the day before, you've hit 7,000, which, you know, to have that growth in that, you know, not even a year, basically, it's just crazy what you can do when you put your work to it. And I know you've put a lot of work into the YouTube and the algorithm in terms of spicing it up and making sure that attraction is coming through. You've always done that very well. Actually, just with all your leads. And, you know, when we first caught up on the first episode of having you, you know, your background is sales, right? So you know all about lead generation and getting people to click through and, you know, to come over and say hi. And you did that originally via Instagram. I don't know if you're still doing that on Instagram. You probably don't have to as much now. It's a lot more organic, I would think.
Instagram spared me. Not completely.
Oh,
but
okay.
I've done it so much that they've literally stopped me from being able to communicate to people to try and get them on board.
In the DMs. Yeah, okay.
In the DMs, because I was dogged on that. And the minute they let me back in, I'm going to continue to do it. Like, yeah, it's the best way to do it when you're a small time creator. You've got to market yourself. You've got to be the one that you've got to be your own algorithm, basically. So
that's true.
Yeah, I can't do it at the moment. And it is a little bit more organic for sure. Yeah. As soon as you get to a certain point, it starts to generate a little bit quicker. And you can have a large say in that by the ideas of the videos that you come up with as well. Like I've realized video ideas is actually like it's the first step, but it's the most important step when it comes to YouTube. So you've got to be talking about stuff that people want to actually listen to. And then you've got to market that and package it well. So I've been learning a lot about how to not even do the videos, but how to actually just market a title and a thumbnail so that somebody actually wants to click on it. And I feel like if you do all those other things, almost like outside things to the actual video itself, that's weirdly how you actually go ahead and generate your subscribers.
Yeah. And look, having watched you from basically day one, build your YouTube, you do it well, right? And I can see how much pleasure and enjoyment you get out of it. Coming from that sales background, like even when you were saying it, like you were smiling and grinning because I can just see you like that challenge, and which is good, right? It's bringing skills from a different, you know, a previous life or, you know, previous work life, and being able to adapt it into this whole new environment. And I think that's super important, is that, you know, what we have is going to be an unfair advantage compared to someone else, but they're going to have an unfair advantage against you, or, you know, vice versa, whether it is sport, whether it is reselling, whether it is whatever. And I think we sometimes take that for granted, but it sounds like you've definitely hit the nail on the head and you've realized it, and now you're actualizing that, which is just a quick win for you. And it's a no-brainer as well. So, I mean, there's so much to unpack here, but I guess I don't want to spend the whole episode talking about the reselling, but it, you know, for those, I know there'll be a lot that's come over from the reselling community to hear all the, you know, see if they can get any lessons or anything. But I guess, you know, you touched on saying that you're basically at that point where you're nearly at cap, or you're hitting the ceiling in terms of being able to growth and scale without bringing on additional hands. And I think this is very interesting because it's one of those things where it's not that you can't do more. It's more about you're either going to have to do something smarter, like something has to change, you have to spice it up, or you have to have more pair of hands, you know, unless you're getting in like a big, massive bulk haul of, you know, 10,000 items, which you've been able to pay very little for, then all of a sudden you've leveled up because you've got to scale. You know, for instance, like JT from over in Perth, you know, how she got all those items. And that in itself has enabled her to grow just insanely quickly and scale very quickly. But, you know, I think you've done it in a great way in terms of you've been able to scale and it hasn't been overwhelming because you've been able to adjust to the next scaling point. And I think it's really interesting to hear that now you're being self-aware that you probably have a little bit more push to maybe a bit more 40,000. But I guess, so the main big kicker that I want to get from this, just to help anyone that's listening, is, okay, so what are you doing different between getting to 100,000 to getting to that 140,000? Because I feel like that 40,000 is actually going to be a lot harder than doing that 100,000.
Yeah, look, I think the first thing that comes to mind is it's all of the experience that I've had in the first year. Like, it's almost like the same output, just with my knowledge that I've gained from the first year allows me to get to 140. You know, it's not the extra hours that you're putting in to bump yourself for that extra 40K. It's just that you're now an experienced reseller. You know what you're doing. You know, you're more efficient in the areas that you weren't efficient in when you first started. So that's allowing you the more time to go out and maybe source an extra item that you can sell, or at least find an item that's going to be worth more money that you didn't know of otherwise. So, you know, I would say that I've really, over the last 12 months, just learnt so much. And it's funny in that in the Instagram messages that I'll send out to people to try and push them to my YouTube channel, I'll say that we're always learning in this game. And we literally are always learning. And I think so many people, they convert across to want to follow because they resonate to the fact that they're in a position of trying to learn. And no matter how big or small you are as a reseller, you're learning every day. No one knows everything when it comes to it. So I've just learnt a lot over the last 12 months. I'm continuing to learn. And that alone is seeing the process of trying to get to where I need to go. It almost becomes slightly more easier because I'm not trying to find my feet in certain places. Granted, though, there is more workload because like I said before, when more sales come in, you know, more workload results. But I've just improved so many different, I should say, efficiencies. And that's probably been the biggest one. But I didn't really want to set a goal that was too far reaching as well, because there's a bit of a side gig there with YouTube as well. And, you know, I wanted to go from 100 to 140 and not feel like I was going to be stressing myself out throughout the year. I think it's achievable. And it's going to be based on those learnings done prior.
It's a really great way that you've answered that. And look, I mean, I don't think there's any right or wrong. It's going to be different for every different person. But I think it's important how you've looked at that, because you're right, because you've now got efficiencies, you've got experience. What used to take you 10 minutes now takes you 2 minutes. Because you're scaling, you're able to then reuse that time to then manage all the sales and do the postage, because the postage isn't going to get, it will get a little quicker because, you know, you've worked out your processes and systems. But if you've got 100 items to ship, you know, it's still going to probably take you, you know, 3 minutes per item, right? Like, that's unfortunately the way it is. Whereas, you know, back in the day when you were doing 20 items, it might have taken you 5 minutes or 6 minutes, right? So you're almost in the same time bound. So I think that's really cool, right? And I mean, and obviously everyone, this is revenue, it's not profit. If you're happy to share it, what would be your current profit sitting around, or what are you basically paying yourself when you're thinking about 100 to 140,000 revenue?
Yeah, it's probably 4 to 4.5 grand a month. At that level, 100. If I'm at 140, it's probably about 4.5 to 5, depending on where the numbers lie. But to me, that's, you know, it's the bare bones of a full-time job. It's, you know, $50,000 a year at that point. And then, you know, YouTube goes on top of that. To be honest with you, I really am at a crossroads of really trying to grow, and it's actually the scary side of bringing in employees. That's scary. I've never done that before. I'm nervous about that, and I'm nervous about how I'm going to go about doing it. Hopefully, right the first time around, which may not be the case. But there was no real risk initially when you get yourself up to 100. That's very personal. It's just you can do it. Anyone can do it. But if I've got these goals and aspirations for the next stage, yes, I can get to 140. But if I want to surpass that, and if I've got the cash through YouTube and reselling to invest in staff members, that's nervous. That growth stage that I'm in now is a nervous time. And the other one as well is I've never said it actually on my YouTube channel. This is the first time I'm going to be saying it to you, but mum and dad here at the house that I'm working out of, they're going to be selling. The market's really, really good here on the Gold Coast. Like, it's really good. Property is flying. The flooding obviously hasn't helped of recent times, but they've given me a bit of a tap on the shoulder, and they've said, Matt, we might just, you know, pocket our numbers and get out of here and move to something a bit smaller. So that is the really big thing for me to have to look at now on a growth perspective of what's it going to be in 3-5 years time. Do you need a storage unit? What are the costs associated to that? Are you going to be able to fill in your employees in that storage area? Whatever the case may be, I've got to think about that now as well. So it hasn't taken place yet. I'm in a research stage, but
I
there's some
love this.
big, like,
This is
there'll
great.
be some big movements. Yeah, yeah.
Because right there, you've basically just said that, yep, you've been, not saying that you've had it easy for the last, year and a half, but you've had a pretty good flow system. Obviously you've got circumstances that you can manage that might not everyone have, but
Just
you know,
less risk,
yeah,
less risk, right? Like you're rent free at your parents' place. That's great.
yeah,
You're working only with yourself. There's no other helpers. There's no other
yeah,
person relying on a paycheck.
yeah,
To then having a really large expense of having to
yeah,
pay, $300-400 a week for a storage unit,
yeah,
and then having to maybe pay $100 to $200 depending on how many hours this person works,
yeah.
and then they're relying on that paycheck. So
This
you've
is,
now got
yeah.
really big business responsibilities that you didn't have otherwise.
It's funny. All of a sudden, it's like now you're back at zero again in some sense, because you're going to
Yeah,
have to replay everything and cater for it, which is really good, right? Because as you said, you're scared and it makes you feel nervous, and and it is, and that's good because it means that you are at that tipping point of jumping outside of that comfort zone. I'm actually excited for you, man, because
oh,
there'll probably be people listening to this and it's like, oh, finally he's on the same playing field, right? Because there's probably people that don't have that ability to be able to rent free or have it at their parents'
yeah,
place and things, and it brings a whole new, I guess, putting a bit more skin in the game, in some sense.
yeah,
But
it does.
I mean, I think it's funny though, because you're aiming for that 140. That 40 actually might fill the gap, right? In some sense, especially for the next year, trial and error with, having people come through and getting a place to store it. And dude, it's, I mean, congratulations in some sense, because I feel like that helps you then take it to the next level. It forces you to take it to the next level.
It has to happen. You can't be, you're not going to go far when it's just yourself. And you don't like, I don't want this eBay thing to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I
Yeah,
would like the flexibility of having somebody to assist me as a bit of a right-hand man so I can focus on
yeah,
YouTube, because I'm so passionate about the YouTube. And there's a lot of day-to-day administrative tasks with reselling, like very well,
yep,
that you don't necessarily need to do to get the job done, well. So if I can be passing that off with the revenue that I'm going to be generating surpass what I need to live on a daily basis, it's just going to make me a little bit more free to not only do work-related tasks, but also personal, just
yeah,
social life-related tasks, which I know we'll touch on a little bit later. But that's been a real focus. And I put out a video around the whole hustle culture
yeah,
mindset. And I don't want to fall into that, rise and grind mentality, because that's not why I got into the game. But
yeah,
I feel like money brings opportunity to reinvest back into your business to help the
yeah,
whole work-life balance be successful. So rather than me just putting that to myself and having that as my own income, I almost just want to keep where I'm at from a financial perspective on an earnings front, and then put every other dollar that I generate back into the business from
yeah,
here on in.
yeah. Okay.
First two things will be, it will be the warehouse of some description, and my first sort of part-time, I guess, employee to help me get that work-life balance.
So cool. That's great. And look, I mean, we could chat hours on this. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna, it's good. So people that are listening from the reselling community, or anyone that's just curious, I mean, head over to his channel, the Aussie Flipper, or hit him up on Instagram, and you can ask a bit more into this. But from this conversation, I want to dive into the next thing of the last year with, excuse me, of the last year of building out the YouTube, the business, and then just you growing as an individual. What lessons have you learned from doing this? In terms of that applies to a broader perspective to life rather than just a business, because you would have had to, like you're feeling now, you've probably gotten a little uncomfortable, you've had to adjust, you had to try new things, you've had to find new routines. What are some of the big lessons, if there's a couple off the top of your head, that you've taken away from the last year to 18 months from building these two platforms of area?
Yeah, look, I think furthering your lifestyle, no matter what you're doing, if it's a business thing, if it's a personal health perspective, patience and dedication.
Okay.
That's really what's got me to where I've got to. And if I think about all the different things that I've learned and all the different things that I've been able to do and achieve, it was the patience to persist, and it was the dedication to just continually do the little day-to-day things correctly. So I think a lot of people unfortunately battle with that. They aren't
Yeah.
patient. They want it all to happen straight away. They want the $100,000 in 6 months or in 3 months.
Yeah.
And it literally doesn't happen. I probably would have said it in our podcast last year, where I gave myself a 3-year runway
Yeah.
to tick off all these goals that I had in place before I considered going back to a 9-to-5 job. I wanted
Yeah.
to give myself 3 years worth of a crack. And to be honest, I really don't think too many people would think to give themselves 3 years. They would think that
Correct.
that's too long a time frame. So it's not so much a learning, because I kind of went in with that mentality, but it was more a realization that you kind of do need those key attributes. And fortunately, I've got those key attributes. And, if you want to run a marathon or an ultra marathon, as you like to do, crazy dude, you're going to need that dedication, aren't you? You're going to need that patience and persistence to get yourself and get your body to that point where you can withstand all of those crazy kilometers. So you can put it in any aspect of life. And I feel like any sort of task that I would tackle, I always seem to just dive right in head first. I never give up, never quit. Always look at small goals in place to get to the big picture, which I know you do very, very well and can relate to this. Just stick with it and be patient.
No, that's great. I mean, it's great advice, and it's going to be different for everyone. But I think, from that as well, do you think because you enjoy it, and I guess you're probably passionate about it, but I think it's not like 3 years ago that you were already doing reselling. It's just so happened that this has fallen within what you're passionate about, whether it is selling and generating, leads and people coming over and building the YouTube. It's not that it's about doing the grind, but you understand that doing this consistently pays off, and being able to see that further point. And I think setting that expectation to yourself around a 3-year journey, and let's see what happens, that helps take some of the load off, right? Because, if someone's saying, I'm going to give it 6 months and they don't hit it, well, like, I'm going to give up. But because you're giving yourself a runway, you're kind of like, if I fail in the first year, I've still got 2 years to double down.
You're not patient and dedicated to run and challenge yourself for an ultra marathon because you don't like running, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You like to run.
And
therefore you can persist and you can be dedicated and you can achieve some pretty crazy results. But it all comes back to the fact that you're just simply passionate about doing that.
Yeah.
If I told you to build something like a big Lego castle and you didn't like Lego, you're probably not going to persist to learn all the intricacies that comes to building a Lego. So, that for me was a massive thing before I even got started, is if I am going to be patient and dedicated, what do I like to do that's going to allow me to be able to do that? And you spoke before on the fact that I was in a sales role. How do I bring a sales role aspect to something that I would start for myself? Well, it's pretty easy. It's pretty broad and generic, but also too, how do you feed the beast of being able to present and do, proposals like I used to do? You're going to be selling things on eBay where there's no face-to-face communication. Well, I can get that passion out of creating stuff by through doing YouTube videos. So every single aspect that I've chosen to go into, through a few weeks and months of thinking about what my next step will be, when the coronavirus last year and I was working my 9 to 5, it was, what are all my passions and what are actually, Gary Vee will say this all the time, and I listen to a lot of Gary Vee like everybody does, but it's just that self-awareness as well. I really kind of took that on board, and I'm like, what am I good at? Well, I had success in my 9 to 5 job in the sales role, and I really do enjoy that, and that's probably why I had the success. Let's just go and put that in place in eBay and sell your stuff there, and then talk about it and educate it with people through a YouTube channel as well. And you're kind of getting that, I guess, that personal touch of me being able to present on camera, which I absolutely love to do. And then something that I didn't even realize is the creativity aspect that I absolutely love, that I didn't get with a 9 to 5. So it's actually gone ahead and opened up more doors that I didn't even know about.
Love it.
By jumping into what I'm doing. So the whole creativity and the marketing aspect of YouTube is fascinating to me. And it all, like I said, it all comes back to being passionate about it.
I love it. It's like, that's the secrets to success right there, guys. We could probably finish the podcast and wrap it up, and it's all on everyone else to go do it.
I think that's a full stop. Yeah.
It's really good, right? And like I said, you've gone through that journey and you're self-aware of it, and the passion has to work. And like I said, whether it is reselling, whether it's running or whatever you're doing, we see other people doing things and we think, oh, I can do that. And you get into it and you realize you just can't get into it. And it's not that it's that you're not good at it, but if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to have the ability to push forward and to get through those really deep valleys when it is, a bad week, and things like that. So no, you've said it really, really well, man. And I thank you for sharing that. I think that will resonate with a lot of people in so many different ways, because it's the reality of it.
It's completely the reality of it. Yeah. Everyone knows what they're interested in. And the other thing is, you can monetize whatever you're interested in as well in this day and age.
100%.
Literally absolutely anything. Yeah, and you do it yourself. You're a runner, but now you're monetizing the fact that you're a runner. And there's sponsorship opportunities that come along with that. There's YouTube advertisement that comes along with that. It's just, we're in a crazy world that we can do this, and I think it's just educating people. When I first told people what I was doing, and I still to this day, people don't really understand. They're like, how do you make money on YouTube? But isn't that just something you do as a hobby? And how do you sell enough items for it to be a full-time job? That's surely not sustainable, is it?
Yeah.
People just don't get the fact that you can do it. And it is with that determination and with that patience that will allow you to get there. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but
100%.
just the use of the internet to monetize these sorts of passions is completely possible. So I recommend anybody out there that's listening to this podcast, have a think, write 3 things down that you're super passionate about, that you just love to do. Don't even think about monetizing it or not. Just write those 3 things down and then consider ways that you could potentially monetize it on the internet. And you could literally have that become a full-time job. No matter what you write down,
100%.
I have full confidence.
And look, looking, and people, if you want to see how it happens, well, go follow, Matt's journey. Heck, you can go see mine starting from 0 as well. You build it up, and it's not about that anyone's bigger and better. Look, like we said, there's different advantages and whatnot, but that's like with anyone. We all have our different advantages, but it is that going through the process and getting the experience, learning, having fun along the way, and just putting that blood, sweat, and tears, aka passion, into it, and coming out the other end, and then you reap the rewards, and then you continue to see how you grow from it. And look, I mean, I think
growing slow too, Chris.
100%. You said before, it's not going to be overnight. Like,
I talk about growing slow all the time. I think I would really like to start pushing that message really hard on my channel and the way that I communicate out there, to say that turning $5 into $100 is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, don't be disappointed that you don't have $1,000. You've only got $100. Just really grow slow. Know that it will take a lot of time, and be okay with the period that you're in at the moment. If you're just starting out, be okay with that. You are literally just starting out. It's not going to happen overnight.
That's it. I love it. We could talk about this for ages. All right. So we've touched on some of the lessons from the last year, and the next thing that I want to touch on, and we spoke about a bit earlier, is then actual areas in your life at the moment that you're trying to further your life with, right? And there's a whole bunch of different topics we could dive into, and I think the first one we'll probably touch on is around travel, and that's quite relevant in your latest YouTube videos. Is I hear you're about to head over to the USA, but why travel? So how is that to further your life?
Well, my backstory before you and I got underway with reselling was that I was traveling a lot, and that was just personal enjoyment of wanting to travel at a young age and just see the world. And then I used it to work overseas as well. And I took a visa in Canada, and I worked for a soccer club in the sporting industry that I was a part of. So I would have touched on it maybe in the first podcast last year, that there was 5 years of travel, and COVID stopped travel. So it's been 2 years now since I've been unable to even think about it. And I figure if I want to get that balance back that I'm looking for, travel is going to be a large part of that. And look, yes, the trip that I've got going over to the States is going to be a heavily work-related trip, but I also want to have elements of just personal travel come back into my life. And if I'm not creating YouTube videos about it, I'm just going away and enjoying it, even with friends and family. There's a wedding back over in Perth, which is where I was prior to coming back to the Gold Coast. And I'm really looking forward to getting back over there and not even having the camera on, just literally going over there to catch up with everybody. So I feel like I really do need that, I guess, personal connection with friends and family. And I've got now, through the travel that I've done previously, a lot of friends in a lot of different pockets of the world, yourself obviously down in Melbourne. So that's going to be a big focus that really has only been able to just unlock recently with border restrictions easing. And I guess I've felt a little bit more, I guess I've just generally felt a little bit more happy, because I know that even if I'm not doing it now, it's the possibility that you just can again.
Yeah. And that's good. It's because I guess, in the middle of it all, you're probably, even if it was open, it might have been a bit, maybe not feeling that excitement, because it's just, there's just so many unknown and uncertainty. But now that things are starting to get more sensible and la-di-da-di-da, you're starting to get that fires burning back again. And, look, it's one of those things I totally resonate with. I mean, I've never been a big traveler overseas, but then when I started to do it, my girlfriend and friends, you start to realize just, it brings you fresh perspective. You learn new things. It's different experience, and it gets you out of your current comfort zone. And sometimes
have you got any travel plans?
Nothing, Reese. In the looking
Book
close.
something in.
Need
The
to
Gold
do
Coast
it.
is a pretty good time, yeah.
Actually, that's true. I know there's the marathon up in Gold Coast in about, I think it's in 12 weeks actually.
I think you should aim for that.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not going to, because I've got a bigger goal for the end of the year and I have to reprioritize it. But I definitely would love to try and do some more running into different states, because you get different environments.
I'm happy to be 20 minutes behind you in the marathon, as long as we can have a beer afterwards.
Actually,
you would smash me in a marathon if you and I. We should do a YouTube video of you and I running the Gold Coast Marathon. That would be amazing.
It could be interesting, and that would actually be really good, because I know for you, and I know we're getting totally off topic here, but I know for you, you'd like to run fast, so it would be a real big game changer for you to have to just learn to. Because what's your longest distance you've done? Have you done a marathon?
I've done a marathon, but
okay.
I was 4 hours 18 minutes, and I wanted to go. I was training to go under 4.
Mine's 4:44, so you're still up on me, man. You're still up on
but
me.
I'm not 4:18 today, Chris.
Yeah, that's true.
I was 4:18 when I ran 4:18, but you would be well ahead of me today.
Oh, I love it. It's definitely something we might have to chat about offline and see what we can do.
Yeah, dude.
But
I'm sure the viewers would want to see it.
Who wants to see it? Let us know in the comments. Jeepers, it's kind of thrown me off track. So travel, I totally agree, and I think that element, even doing what we just spoken about and being able to go over and then just hang out and do that kind of thing, it's something which we've all lacked in the last 1 or 2 years. I've actually built better relationships online and having conversations like this, and I'm keen to, if anything, I would like to just get out and go do pods with people in the flesh, catch up with people, because it's a whole different experience. You have to learn in a different way, and it'd be a great way to grow and just experience it. And I think that's a good segue to the second point that I know you really want to start pushing on to more, is around your social life, and you kind of touched on already with the travel as well. But I mean, what are some of the elements there why and how do you think that's going to help you grow?
Well, it's so important. And I personally, look, I don't know how it couldn't be, but it may not be super important to some people. But for me, friends and family, that's the reason why I got into reselling or working for myself, was to have, I guess, the flexibility and freedom to be able to catch up with friends and family, and to come back to the Gold Coast, which is where I'm from. And to have literally, I'm back working at my parents' place, which I wasn't able to see for 5 years while I was away. So I've got a younger sister as well, her partner, they're awesome people, awesome to hang out with. And really, I've, to be honest with you, I've found, talking about trying to get employees in to give me assistance, I've found that over the last 18 months, it's just been me working away. And I've really kind of just punted all of that stuff that was the reason why I initially got into it in the first place. And I know that you need to put in the time, but I put out a video around hustle culture on YouTube. And it was really because I was truly battling with just the work mentality of just, you need to do this, you need to grow this, everything needs to happen quickly. And it was, no, take a back seat, get a bit of balance back in your life, go and catch up with your friends and family. That's why you're here in the first place. Do the 1%ers that you need to do to keep the business moving, but maybe don't do any extras. Don't do all the stuff that you feel like you should do. Maybe just punt that for a second and try and bring that balance back, because it's a huge lifestyle factor for me to have that. But do I have that right now? Probably not. And it's just a case of reaching back out to mates again. It's not like I haven't seen my mates for a long time. It's just I don't get that regular hangout. I just find that super important. And it's going to make my work better as well if I can bring that back. So, I know that I need to do it. It's going to be a bit of work to try and keep the numbers of the business and the YouTube channel generating as it is. But even if it falls away, I've got to be okay with that to get the balance back.
It's one of the things that we'll deal with it in different ways. Whether you are working a 9 to 5, we tend to bury our problems and just keep working. And then when you are earning something like building your own business or a passion project, it becomes your baby. It becomes everything you love. And it's not that you're addicted to it, but in some sense it is. And it's like an unstated thing, because you just love to pour the energy into it. But then you're not. I love it. It's like, going out for the thrift, you want to get this, you want to see the numbers, you want to see all that. And it's not about because you want to show that you're a baller and you've got all this money. It's like you're doing it yourself. And and it's whether it's a selfish thing because it's making you feel better, which it probably is. But at the end of the day, that's what we thrive, right? If you were working a 9 to 5, everyone's always like, oh, I want to get to that next level, to get to the promotion, or I want to be doing this role, or I want to try that. And that's who we are naturally, right? We like to pursue things and always chasing the next thing. And once you get to that 140,000, I'm sure you'll probably be like, okay, how do we? What's next? And that's part of it, right? But I think having the people around you and who you surround yourself with is going to enable you to grow, and they're going to potentially open new doors for you or give you fresh perspective, or maybe they're not, and they're just going to give you some time to just rest and just chill out, right? And I think either of those is going to be a win regardless. And like this weekend, I'm at my girlfriend's, and all today I've just been making sure I can get as much done as possible so I can take the weekend off, right? So this morning was just all editing, getting things done, because I drop a video tomorrow. I've got the podcast, a different podcast comes out on Sunday, a different episode. And then I've actually got my co-host podcast coming out on Monday. So doing all that so I can try and just, if I just want to go thrifting or just hang out with my girlfriend or just go running, and I don't have to worry about, I've got to be back to do this edit to get it dropped by this time. And that doesn't happen very often. But when you get that chance to do it, it means you can kind of just kick back. Oh, yeah, I can do whatever you want and just see where the road takes you. And I know that's what you want.
Time away, a day away. I work every day. If I can be taking the Saturdays off and even just double listing up on a Friday afternoon, so I can take that full day off on Saturday. There's no YouTube video, no recordings that take place on a Saturday. So it really can be a day to switch off and get back into running again and get back into catching up with friends and family. Everyone else is free on that Saturday. So I figure it's the perfect day of the week for me to be taking away. But to be honest with you, I find that it's a fallback. Work is a fallback. If there's, well, what could you do? What could you do? It's almost like this weird comfort to just fall back into. Yeah. I'll just punch out another 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. I'll just tinker with my spreadsheet and make sure my numbers are progressing the way that. Don't tell me you're not a tinker. I know.
Oh, mate, tinkering all the time. I was tinkering like 15 minutes before this while I was just ready to go. I was just playing with a few things.
I know you were. We were very similar, you and I, but I don't think I need to be doing that. I know there's certain things where I'm like, Matt, you don't need to do this. You can step away, and you're chewing up valuable time. You could be getting yourself away to put yourself in a better position for when you do come back and have to do the important stuff in the business. So
it's so true.
I'm really recognizing that. Yeah.
The thing I've realized with that, and I've done it today. Like I've been, like I said, well, if anyone hasn't realized, I've been unwell for the last 10 days. So some things I have put on the back burner, with some things I've just kept, to keep the lights on. And I wanted to make sure I can spend some time with my girlfriend this weekend. And the good thing about the way I kind of do it is knowing, well, if I want that, I have to give myself a short amount of time to get these things done. Because, there's that saying, if you give a busy man something, he'll get it done. And because otherwise, if I had 3 days to do it, I'll kind of be like, oh, yeah, you kind of, wait to the last minute and then you're stressing. Whereas today actually has just gone really, really well. And I got into a good flow, got up early and got it done. And some weeks it's not like that. Like 2 weeks ago, I was doing editing Friday, Saturday, and even a little bit on Sunday. It's not always going to be perfect, but I think the more things you can put in place to do that, and I'm speaking to myself here as well, we start to realize the benefits. Like I'm excited because now I don't have to necessarily do much, twinkering or anything over the weekend. I can kind of just see what happens. And this conversation, it's really easier said than done, I must admit, because
you don't think you don't even think it's going to, like, I wouldn't have thought this would be an issue for me. Yeah. I worked a lot of hours, because football, you'd have to work weekends as well. In the footy industry, you'd have to work games. So I would get a Sunday off every week. And it was almost like that mindset of doing the 60-hour work weeks I was already used to. So when I adapted to this, my numbers weren't where they needed to be on an earnings front. So I felt like I needed to do a ton of hours. And that really hasn't fallen back since I've been able to get it to that first level. So I think it's just something that I wasn't even aware of, because when you're in that culture on a work front in a football club, everyone else is in that same environment.
Yeah.
But then when you're not doing it and you're doing it by yourself, you kind of just have a bit more time to assess and go, hold on a minute, this is just me doing this. Everyone else, my friends and family, they aren't doing it. Do I need to be doing it? Well, probably not. Things are actually okay the way they are. If you just try and take a step back, it's not going to be the end of the world. And you're going to feel a lot happier for doing it and having the time off. So it's only been the last sort of maybe a month or two that I've really looked at that. It's just a very weird old period that I'm in now. I'm trying to like grow to the next level, but I'm also trying to fall back and try and find the balance. It's really tricky at the minute.
And it's probably because you're starting to hit that ceiling, right? And you're realizing that you want more, but something has to give. But at the same time, as you said, your whole intention of this was to be able to give yourself that flexible working lifestyle, so you can hang out with friends.
It's bringing hands in to give you a helping hand, so you can.
But it's just funny though, because like now you have to change something else. You're going to have to teach someone else, so it's going to actually put a bit more investment in. And I get it, like I totally get it, because I'm at the same point. And look, full transparency for everyone that's listening, you know, I'm trying to do so many different things, and it's like, well, if I want to grow my podcast, I need to spend more time on it, but I literally have to do the reselling to pay my bills, you know, and not that I have a lot of bills, but, you know, I want to save, I want to invest. I don't want to just be eating into my savings all the time. So it's a catch-22. So it's like, either I have to have another source of income somehow, or I need to have someone else doing something for me, so I have more time to put onto the business, not in the business. And, you know, so it is a battle, and that will come with anything that we do, because you will cap, right? Because we're only one person. You only have, you know, 40-hour working weeks, or, you know, however long you're working each week, but there is only, you know, 31 days in a month anyway. So you're going to cap. But then it's about looking at, well, what can you get in to help you? What systems can you put in place? Is it people? Is it what software, whatever? And this, I'm not just talking about reselling, I'm talking about whatever. And yeah, I mean, like I said, we could chat on this for a long time, but I think it's a real, it's the real deal. I'm always struggling with it myself, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I know one thing that you said before all this is, you know, like you want to be able to do more exercise, which is actually the third point we were going to touch on around further in your life. So when you talk about exercise, I know with chat, you are a runner, and, you know, you had to step away from running a bit, and now you're trying to get back into it. But when you talk about exercising, so how do you think that's going to help further your life, but also why are you trying to make sure it's a sure thing in your routine?
There might be some people out there that can resonate, because I don't think I'm the only one. For me, running and just general exercise, going to the gym, playing any sort of social sport. I played basketball on a Monday night. That's very important to me. It's almost like an active meditation. I'm not a meditator myself. I don't sit there and put the app on and tune out for 10 minutes a day like others do. But I kind of get that through going for a run and putting in some loud music into my ears, not thinking about anything, but just trying to get the next breath out so I can make myself, you know, do a complete lap. But I generally, I can really break up a work day and go home and switch off completely at home because I had that run. So it's almost active meditation and a mental thing for me, so much more so than a physical thing. As much as I obviously want to be as fit and healthy as I possibly can be, but I would say it's probably more 50-50 mentally as to the reason why I do it. But it's also a huge passion of mine. I've run since cross country days at high school.
Wow.
That's when I first got into it. I
hated
cross country. I loved it. And you'd go off to regionals, and we'd run off into the woods in one of the local parks near our school, and we'd compete against the other schools. And that's where I first started to run and enjoy running. And then I used to run with my dad, and Dad and I used to have a running thing for my football. I used to play football, and he would set off, obviously my old man, he's 30, 40 years older than me. And I would set him off for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I would try and chase him down over 5
Nice.
And we did that probably my entire childhood through my teenage years at high school for my football training. And we used to have some serious competition, the old man and I, around trying to beat each other. And we would get down to the cul-de-sac run where it was like a 50-meter stretch, and we would be neck and neck, like
that's
sprinting.
Awesome.
We got it down to a science. We got it down to a few seconds. So I've obviously got good memories from those sorts of things. So that's why the running has always kind of remained for me. And I've always kind of, you know, been persistent and dedicated to that, because it is a passion, everything that we've spoken about. But I've been sick, a bit like you. I've been sick over the last couple of months. I was coronavirus in December, January, and then I was shingles. Shingles is nasty, man. It was nasty. And that hit me for about 3 or 4 weeks. And I think it's pretty much gotten to start of March. And I'm really only feeling like I can get back to doing that. And man, to not do it for 2 months.
I can't imagine.
I realized how important it is to my lifestyle. I couldn't fathom just like catching up with friends when I wasn't working, go to bed, have dinner, whatever the case may be, and not do exercise, because I just wouldn't be a happier person if I was doing that. And I noticed that in the 2 months of being sick and away from it, I literally could not train. I could not run. And I really felt that for the very first time. So a huge thing for me, but also mentally to make yourself feel good. And then obviously when you go into your work mode, to work better.
It's really good. Like, look,
You know it yourself.
I resonate with that so well. Like, I've had 10 days off and, not running. I was just like, oh my gosh. And, not being able to meet my goals, or I'm not, just getting out and just feeling exercise. Right. But, what I'm taking from all this is like, and whether you knew it prior or you've only really discovered it in the last year and a half, is it sounds like you've got some really strong pillars that are building up your life. And I think it's interesting because if I had asked you these questions 3-4 years ago, you probably wouldn't have had the same answers. Like, you wouldn't have realized how much you enjoyed those things, or, we change, and, you get into different hobbies and different things. That's your escape and whatnot. But it sounds like now, like, if you were starting from zero again, you would have an idea of like, you need to make sure you build this into it. You want to be able to do this, and that's what you're creating. And now because you have gotten to that point and you're realizing it, now you're trying to switch it over, but still maintain everything at the same time.
I think where I lost it was actually not playing team sport. Okay. I played a lot of cricket, and I played a lot of football, and that was year round. It would summer, winter sports. And I did that right the way up to about 22 or so. And then I went away and did the travel. And the travel element was kind of like this, prolonged holiday where you're just constantly meeting people and all that sort of things.
So you get that. And then,
so you got that social element, which is one of the pillars. And then, when you were playing team sport, you were working, you were communicating with fellow co-workers, and then you would have all your best mates. You'd go out on a night out and have a beer after a game of footy or cricket. You'd have got your physical health sorted by playing the game, and then you'd have your social stuff sorted. So I lost kind of the travel aspect and the friends of social sport. And then I fell into just simply working. So it was like a realization of only about, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago when I started playing Monday night basketball. It was, okay, you can't commit yourself to Tuesday, Thursday, play on Saturday. If I played a game of footy, I'd probably ping a hamstring day one. I'm not as fit as I used to be. So let's just do Monday night basketball.
Yeah.
No commitment other than get your mates together. We just play with a social rec team, 45 minutes every Monday night. No real massive commitment, but a huge benefit because it brings back all the things that are super important to me. So, these pillars that you speak of, I probably wouldn't have even thought about it, years ago because I was naturally just doing it. But this weird old world that we're in, and the position that I've put myself into on a work front has caused me to try and reflect and go, well, how were you happy? What were the things? And that's everything that it was.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's great. And I think we all have these things, like these different roots or these different pillars and values. And like I said, they might change over time as we grow and, develop or whatever. But I think it's important to have that self-awareness and take some time to discover what they are, because they're usually the motivators that are helping you either move towards something or actually motivating you to move away from something, right? And once you put them into play and actually, you actually identify them, you can start to, I guess, leverage them as your unfair advantages or things that's going to help you thrive. And, for me, the running, it enables me to keep going, because even though, people think, how does running help you feel more, alive because you're exhausted afterwards? But, that's my chill time. That's where I get to learn. I can listen to a podcast, or I can just get out and express and clear the head and dump everything off me. Right. And then I can come back, you feel like you've already won the day, and then start the day and, go smash it out. Whereas when I don't have that in my routine, it's just like, you feel like something's not right. And I think the more I would encourage anyone to just have a deep dive and see what these pillars are. And like I said, there's no right or wrong with it. It's kind of identifies to you, because it's one of those things which is going to lead into the next thing I ask you is like, once you realize it, you start to think, oh, I should have started this earlier. Which is actually the next thing I want to ask you. And it doesn't have to be from these points, but I guess, what's one area of your life now that you know what you know now that you had wish you had started earlier, and why?
Oh, working for myself for sure. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool if you can get to a point where it is what you do. You only need to tell it to people, and like I said before, it's quite hard for people to get their head around the fact that you can be sustainable in selling on eBay. You can generate an income on YouTube. I'm not saying that I'm wishing that I got into YouTube and reselling, but I just wish I even opened up the door of the thought of it, in my early 20s.
Was there Yeah. Was there a time in your 20s or earlier when you had thought about it or you had ideas?
Absolutely not. I would listen to Gary Vee every now and again, and I would kind of think, it's a bit of a pipe dream. There'd be a lot of work and a lot of time, and I'm not in any form of financial position to take 6 months off to grind at it, and then there's no guarantee that it'll even work. But that's when the coronavirus hit, and you don't have a choice. You have to. So I was coronavirus kind of really, in a really really weird way, it kind of really made me reset. Not that I was disappointed with anything that I was doing. I speak a lot around the fact that up until the age of 30, which was coronavirus for me, it was my 30th birthday year. I had all of these. I called it before 30. You'd appreciate this. It was all aspects of my life, every single pocket of my life, and I had goals for every single one. And I can tell you that on my 30th birthday, before the virus, I ticked off every single one of them.
Nice.
And then at the coronavirus, it all stopped. And I came back to the Gold Coast, and every single one of the boxes that I ticked had been removed out of my life.
And you were literally starting from bare bones.
Bare bones, had no say in it. The world is the way that it is. There are a lot more people out there worse than I am. But every form of trajectory and direction that I was going in, I'm even talking relationships. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time to come back home. Every single pocket of my world, I was basically just with a backpack sitting in my parents' place where I was 5 years prior, before I'd gone away on all this travel, and I chose not to go back to Melbourne and take my 9-to-5 job. It was the ultimate reset, albeit I wasn't in any danger. I wasn't in any financial stress, but I was in a complete reset stage. And it was the first time that I ever thought about working for myself, because I literally had so much time to analyze what I could possibly go and do. But geez, I wish that I even put it as a bit of a thought process when I was 20 and started a side hustle that I could develop over the course of 5 years, to then be able to just transition out at 25. Like, that would have been epic.
Because the only difference between you being 20 and you being 30, because I mean, I know you're not at your parents' place now, but that, the last 6 months, that's only just changed. But, 20, 30, you're at your parents' place, you don't really have much expenses, you don't have much responsibilities. The only difference is really experience. That's the only difference that you would have. And I think I'm the same. Like, I mean, I've always been trying to start something, do something, and find a way. Like literally, I spoke about in the other week on the podcast that when I started working my 9-to-5, I was already listening to things of how to get out of it. Not because I didn't want my job. It was because I knew that that's not my end game. That's not where I wanted to be. So I've always been trying to find a different way to do it. And, I've tried and failed miserably. And some things it's like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? But once again, it's that experience and trying. And then, like you, different circumstances get into that position where you click or you reset, or it forces you to click. And it's hard because, here we are trying to tell people, you've said you wish you had done it. And for anyone that's listening that even has a little inkling of thought around what we're saying around, there's this idea, or you're curious about something, please scratch that itch. And even, I'm not saying go quit your job and just go full time on it, but scratch it enough to invest some time into it and see what could actually happen if you dedicate your weekends to it, or whatever it may be. Because
the grow slowly mentality.
That's right. Like 20 to 30, right? 10 years, and you'll be ahead of us now, right? Because
do you know how old your demographic is that watch this or listen to this pod?
35 to 45.
It's still super young to be going, I've got an opportunity to think about something and monetize something and
100%.
I'm not retiring. I'm not retiring for 30 or 40 years. What am I going to do in that 30 or 40 years, or how can I change things? You've got so much time to do it.
30 is the new 20. Like
100%.
But what you said there is really true, right? We said 20, we said to 30, but heck, if you're 30, 40, 50, it's not too late. And I've seen some pretty cool stories over the last 2 years of people that did lose their jobs, that did get kicked out of whatever situation, and they've had to improvise, they've had to pivot. And some of them have just, taken on the trend of, I started a TikTok or whatever. And, they've just blown up, and they've gone in there just to discover and learn and have some fun. And it's worked out well for them. I'm not saying that's what you do and that's what you'll get from it. But the idea is that curiosity, that inkling of something that excites you, that's really what's going to grow.
Also, too, use the experience that you've already gained. Generally, if you're going to try and do something different, it might not be a complete 180. It might just be just a slight pivot that you can still utilize the skills that you've already used and developed.
Exactly, like you said before. Yeah.
if I didn't have the 10 years in the sports industry and my sales roles, maybe I'm not great at eBay and YouTube, in getting a fast start with it, or being able to generate sales for it to be a full-time job or to gain subscribers. If I didn't have that past background and experience of doing presentations and making sales of my own in that industry.
Yeah.
So what do you wish you did when you were younger? Yeah, I would have liked to have started to work for myself at a younger age, but I also don't regret not doing that because it's allowed me to kick it into gear at this point in my life.
Exactly.
So, catch 22, like I don't regret anything that I have ever done at any point. And that's how I try to live my life as well, is at any point in time, what do you want to do right now? Like you can do whatever you want to do. If it's a job that you're working that you don't want to work in, find a way to get out of it. Make that your priority. If you're not earning enough money, find a way to start another thing to make you more money if that's what your priority is. Whatever it is, what you want to do right now, I truly believe that anybody can set themselves up to be in that position. But so many people don't. So many people don't think it's possible, and they get rutted into working a job that they hate, and they just literally months and years go by, and they literally don't like and enjoy their lifestyle when they possibly could change it if they wanted to.
Love it. It's I mean, we can't. I mean, we could go on for ages about this, but I feel like that's really the pivotal point here of just. I mean, guys, you got to take what you want and pursue it, right? I mean, that's it's cliche as it is. That's really the only way to do it. And I love what you're saying around slow growth, because for me to get to my running journey, and I've only been reselling for a year now, but my running, I've done ultra marathon, I've done multiple marathons, and I'm doing 2 half marathons a month. But
you're a mad.
It's taken me 8 years to get here, right? And I think that's the key thing, is the time element. I can't just go out and all of a sudden go do a 100K ultra marathon, because 50K ultra to me was like, whoa. So that 100 is like me starting back at 5K again, thinking, how do I do a 10K or a 20K? So that perspective, and I think it is that slow growth over time that's going to give you the confidence, the experience, and the ability to then show up and say, yeah, I got this.
Make it cool. I want to make growing slow cool.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think actions speak louder than words, right? And I think when people start to realize it and build that momentum and get that snowball effect, that's when you can really understand the power of it. And it's like compound, it's like investing, right? If it's that statement of, the best time to invest was 20 years ago or today, because right now we just discussed about, what you wish you would have done at 20 years, but then you wouldn't have had the experience. So hindsight tells us then, well, okay, if you want something in 20 years time or 10 years time, you have to start today. That's the only way to get it. You can't start in 20 years and expect you're going to have the result because you've missed the 20. We can harp on this. So look, I'm going to be super excited to see, and I said this last time, where you're going to be over the next few years, especially 5 years, because then it's outside of your 3-year window. Like it's going to be very interesting, even for myself. Like, I know we talk about it and it feels a long way away, but it will go quick. And of course, I'll probably have you back again in a year's time and check in, see what's going on, see what's changed. And that's what I love about this, is because I've been catching up with a lot of people over, and it's been a year since I've caught up, and seeing how they've changed, what they're doing different, how they've grown, how they haven't grown, or where they've failed. And all these things play a part in molding who we are and enabling others to grow too. So, I mean, Matt, like we've touched on heaps, man. I really do appreciate it, because there's a lot to unpack here. And I think I was going to say, what's one thing you would leave to the audience, but I think you're going to say it's like slow grow. I mean, grow slow.
I'm going to start to say it a bit more in my videos. I reckon it's almost been born. I've been thinking about it a lot. I've mentioned it here and there, but I reckon it's been born out of this podcast, because I don't verbally talk about this sort of stuff. I think about all this sort of stuff, but sitting on a pod with you and actually putting it out there and speaking it, the resounding thing that I come back to is that I'm growing slow every single day, and I'm still here now, 18 months in.
Yeah.
So
and that's it. You're showing up. You're putting in the reps. You're still here.
I'm still here. And a lot of people 18 months in, they aren't still here. And it's because you're okay to grow slow. And you'll speak to me in a year's time and you'll say, what are you up to? And I'll say, well, I've just grown slow for another 12 months.
That's it. And I think, I can resonate with this a lot, because I mean, I've had my YouTube for 6-7 years now, and, I've changed and shuffled, and, I'm picking up momentum now, but, 100% transparency, for me to be on YouTube for 5 years, when I first met you, 5-6 years, and then to see you come along and now you're at 7K and you've done it in literally, a tenth of the time I've been on there. and you're like 7x me. It's frustrating as heck, but I can understand why people get so frustrated, because people think you're an overnight success, but that's not true, right? It's not overnight. It's literally 18 months, right?
But
And
it's also perception. It's also perception. Like, to me, I look at people with 20, 30, 40, 100,000 subscriber accounts and get envious at
there's
their numbers.
always someone ahead, right? And there's that timeline. It's the most cliche thing that I always talk about is you're in the middle. There's always someone ahead of you, and there's always someone that you're influencing and pulling up or inspiring. And that once you're aware of that and realize where you're at is where you need to be at, and it's about not being jealous but being motivated by the ones ahead of you, and making sure that you're helping the ones behind you, encouraging them and helping them see that, hey, I was there whenever I was there. You just got to keep that discipline, and that that grow slow, that's the big takeaway.
Look, speaking of passions, my passion really has developed over the last 18 months into YouTube. And like I spoke about before, the creativity aspect, the titles, the thumbnails. I'm more than happy to have a chat to you about it as well, if you want to have a chat about that generation, what video ideas are going to pop for us, and what titles and thumbnails can we do, because that's not going to be taking any time out of my day. I talk about and think about that every single day of the week. So if you've got your goals to try and get your YouTube subscribers up and things like that, we
Love it.
have a yeah, man.
Like already helping people, mate. It's been so good. Like I said, we could chat hours on this, and that we've definitely hit our good time length. I appreciate it so much.
An hour already.
It has. It's gone super quick. And people that are listening, I want you to go check out Matt. Go check out me, Matt. Where's the best place to find you? You can tell us.
Yeah, the Aussie Flipper on YouTube is, I mean, you can have a chat to me on Instagram, because I'm banned from communicating out, but I'm happy to communicate in. So you can send me a message on Instagram, and I'm always happy to respond to anything. But yeah, watch my videos on YouTube, because that's what I'm all about.
Love it. That's really good. Really do appreciate it, mate. I mean, I basically chat to you on a weekly basis at this point, but really encourage everyone to go check it out. And, not even if you're not into reselling or anything like that, just go check out and see what you're trying to do, and help give that perspective, especially that hustle video. I think we can take it in big chunks or small chunks, because in some ways, there is something that we're always dedicating our time to too much, and being able to, have that realization of, okay, need to step back and just appreciate the slow burn or the slow growth. So really do appreciate you coming onto the pod again, mate. I'm looking forward to see where you're going this year and where you're going to be in a year's time. And of course, I'll have you back on, but otherwise, you have a wonderful day, mate.
You too, mate. Appreciate you getting me on. Good to see you.
Cheers. So there you go. Another episode done and dusted. And I mean, I love what Matt's doing, and he's been a huge inspiration in helping me actually grow and help me, reach some of my goals with the reselling business. And, there's a lot of people in this reselling community, and it's really encouraging to see how many people help. And I have heaps of people to thank you for it. And, Matt also has some great perspective, right? And I think the big takeaway from this episode is grow slow, right? That's really the key words that he resonated with, I resonated with. And I think that's the perspective you need to take from this episode is, if you do want to achieve something, if you do have some goals and some ambitions, you need to be willing to put in the time, put in the discipline, be willing to show up and have the patience. And he touched on this quite a lot in this episode, and it resonated with me a lot. And it's not an easy process, but it's well worth it in the long run. So I've been inspired, of course. Make sure you go check out his channel. All the details are in the show notes below. You can also hit us up on Instagram or Twitter and continue the conversation, which I would greatly appreciate, at Further Your Lifestyle on Instagram or Further Your Life on Twitter. Hey, you can even send me an email at hello@furtheryourlifestyle.com. Really do appreciate you being here. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. You can drop a comment on YouTube if you have listened to this with the YouTube experience. Really appreciate it, and you have a wonderful day. Cheers. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them, or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.